Let's have a show of hands who obviously has heard of emotional intelligence. Show of hands. You've heard of it, just as I suspected. Who knows what it is? Has a good understanding of emotional intelligence? Okay. Those with their hands up, who would like to share their definition in a sentence or two? Nobody? Okay, I'll do it for you. Emotional intelligence, simply understanding or identifying your emotions and being able to manage them and the emotions of others. Once again, identifying and managing our own emotions and the emotions of others. Dan Goleman is a psychologist that I follow who's undoubtedly or arguably, the godfather of emotional intelligence. Wrote many, many books, and he has made this terminology famous today. And he puts it as just handling ourselves and handling others. It's as simple as that. And you can put emotional intelligence, it's a broad topic. And throughout the day, we've been speaking on components and skills of emotional intelligence, all throughout the day. We can split it into two categories. The self, which is the way that we function, having understanding, as I said, and self-awareness, our own strengths and weaknesses, what has us be able to grow and perform in this world. What's the other one? If it's the self, what would be the other category of emotional intelligence? What is it? Others. Others. We live on a planet with 7 billion other people. Human connection is a basic human need. Probably heard of Maslow's study, his hierarchy of needs. He sees it as essential for survival. We need to connect with other people, building relationships. And as you've heard throughout the day, building relationships is crucial to building a healthy organizational culture. Hence, high performance and results. But it starts with the culture and it starts with connecting to people. Thank you, Evan Burke. And I'm going to talk about one aspect of that quickly. I've got another 10 minutes to talk about empathy. Connecting to others, as Evan Burke was saying, is empathy. Why is empathy important, especially in business? Again, a very, very accurate statistic, I'm sure, from the internet and from Harvard Business Review. Empathetic companies outperform their more callous counterparts by 20%. We all want to perform. We want our companies to perform. Pretty general statement. And in this workplace empathy study, this is really interesting. 96%, almost every employee, considers it important for employers. So we're talking from the employer's point of view. We saw a great interaction between an employer and the employee before with Sean and Iwana. And it's important that employers demonstrate empathy, to connect. 92% believe this trait is undervalued. And here's what the problem is. It's undervalued. Empathy is not taken seriously and it's not practiced. And this is where a lot of organizations are going wrong. There are 3 types of empathy. Cognitive empathy, which is basically we know and understand what somebody else is feeling and thinking. So we have a concept. After me, Marc Francis, who you've heard throughout the day, will be talking about behavioural styles. And that is a form of cognitive empathy. Just knowing, oh, I know what you're going through. Yeah, no, I get it. Emotional empathy. This is being able to feel what somebody else feels. So we have the concept, we know what they must be going through, but there's something in us that also feels the same. We are moved. Who here experiences when you watch movies, it's maybe a sad movie, or someone triumphs at the end and you get a bit of a tear in the eye? I'm seeing some nodding heads. Come on, show of hands. Cried in movies? Yes. Yet it's happening to someone else. And there's recent studies to show that our brains are wired to do this, to actually have empathy for others. They're called mirror neurons. It was studied in chimps. It was actually found by accident. But it suggests that our brain is riddled with these mirror neurons that enables us to connect with somebody else's pain. And the third is empathetic or empathic concern. And that is when we feel compelled to help somebody else in need. We don't just see and understand, we don't just feel the pain they're going through, but we want to help. And again, human beings are wired to do this. But why and when don't we do this? We don't always feel compelled, or we might feel compelled and we stop ourselves. And there are studies again to show that it's not through the lack of empathy, it's that when we are thinking of ourselves and we have something else that's getting our attention and we put our needs above somebody or something else, like running late. I want to help that person, but I need to get to this meeting. Or something else is on my mind. We are self-absorbed. And that stops us from experiencing that empathic concern or even acting upon the empathic concern. Great leaders possess all three and demonstrate all three. For the employers in the room, great leaders need to have these three things and consistently activate them in the workplace. So the question is, can empathy be developed? Who else agrees? Empathy can be developed? Absolutely. I have three simple ways. There's a lot of ways you can develop empathy, but just like building any other muscle, how can we develop our empathy? Serve. What do I mean by serve? Be outwardly focused. Think of other people and endeavour to help, like that empathic concern. Volunteer. The more you practice, and some of us actually need to schedule it in. We get so busy in our lives, right? Responsibilities, not enough time in the day. I'd love to volunteer. I should volunteer. I started volunteering. I've stopped volunteering. I'll get back into volunteering. Volunteering is just one example of serving others. But do it. Develop it like any muscle. Force yourself if you have to. Take the time out. Look at the week ahead and say, where am I serving other people? Listen. And we listen all the time, but are we really listening? Again, when it comes to building relationships, how present are we when we are speaking to somebody, especially in the workplace? Things are going on. It's Q4. We're coming into Black Friday, right? It's manic. Things are going nuts. You have quick meetings, right? Are we on? Yep. Boss, I need you, whatever. Are we really listening? Pull the phone out. Yep, no, I got you. Okay, good, let's just do this. And sometimes that lacks empathy. We think we might be displaying empathy, but in order to really build that relationship and understanding and get the message across, we have to really listen. And that means being present and focused. So when you trigger yourself to, I'm going to listen to this person and really listen and be present, you then need to look at the things that are going to prevent you from being present with them. In doing that, you're building empathy. When you listen, you automatically build empathy and rapport and trust with somebody else. This speaks into the listening. This is an element of the listening. When you are listening, when you are talking, get curious. If you need to remind yourself, do it. We're building this empathy muscle. What I mean by get curious? What do I mean by get curious? Show of hands. Somebody yell it out. Ask questions.
Set down assumptions.
Ooh. Set down assumptions. We make assumptions, yet it's not factual because we haven't asked the question. Get curious. When we get curious, when we ask questions, the other person feels heard. And then you're getting information about that person. And you'll be surprised when you actually get curious and ask what information comes back, and all of a sudden, the empathic concern might come in, depending on what's being shared. The emotional empathy, because now you have that information to trigger the mirror neurons. I said we go through this quickly. I want to get us, we've been sat down a lot. We can continue to sit down, but I want to do a listening exercise. It's short, it's sweet, but again, it looks at how we can build our empathy and how we can listen intently and experience what you experience when you sit down and you listen to someone. Now, the key to this is I want you to partner up. There is a prompt, similar to what Mary Jo did this morning with partner A and partner B. We're going to get into pairs. Partner A is going to share the biggest challenge in my life right now is, and you have 60 seconds. Partner B will listen and really listen. And then at the end of that 60 seconds, I'm going to ask partner B to repeat back to that person what they heard. Then we're going to swap. So we're building the empathy muscle. A crucial element of empathy is listening. And let's test our listening skills right now. Let's just feel it. So into pairs, really quick. Really quick. Try to choose someone you haven't been paired up with today. So, I want to hear from you. How was your experience? What came up during that experience? Barry, empathy came up? Well, I did my job. How did it come up for you? Barry, it really did. Anybody else? What was your experience, Dallas?
Really ironic for me, my biggest challenge is listening.
Oh.
So this was actually a great exercise for me.
Why is it a challenge for you to listen?
I think it's because I feel like I have so much to share, and I've always felt that, and it's always coming from that place of I feel like I need to share my experiences. And now I'm to that point in my life where I'm realizing, okay, wait a minute, part of empowering other people and part of being in that journey, especially in leadership, yes, there is some piece you have to share, but the bigger piece is being able to listen, being able to absorb, and being able to
Did everybody hear that? No? Dallas was just saying he's challenged because he has a lot to share, and he does. He's a wonderful talker. He has great stories. He has a lot of value and experience. He's learning and sees the power in empowering others by letting them speak. Did I sum that up pretty well? Okay, good listening. Anybody else? Yes, Todd.
Seb, because he's such a wonderful man. When he had to feedback what he had heard from me, he then asked me some questions with it to make sure he was actually understanding what I was trying to say to him, rather than just verbatim saying something back to me. That doesn't necessarily mean he had understood my perspective or what it meant to me. He followed that up with some questions to make sure he really understood, to kind of foster that empathy, I guess, of where was I coming from and how was I doing it.
I was a great listener.
Todd, I'm so glad you brought that point up. What Seb, this incredible human over here, was demonstrating was active listening, which is a tool that we can use when we listen. We listen actively. Little head gestures, nodding. I'm here with you. I'm listening. I'm not distracted by what's over there, or what's on my phone. And I'm proving that to you by asking you a question. And I'm curious, and I care. That's empathy. And we feel it as someone that's telling the story and communicating just by the other person listening in that way. So thank you, Todd, for sharing. I was going to see what came up. I was going to prompt you perhaps with ways to listen and little techniques. So I'm glad that was happening in the room. One more person, let's share, and then we'll hand it over to Marc Francis. What was your experience there? Yes, Andrew.
I really liked trying to figure out if I could repeat the answer back, because it made me focus on every word and remove like my responses or my kind of like dialogue focus, and really made me figure out like what are the key points, what do I need to take away from this, and how do I let them know that I care about what they have to say.
Thank you, Andrew. And that's following on from Dallas's point as well. How many of us find ourselves wanting to add to what somebody's saying or agree and then give our point of what they're saying? It happens a lot.
Or providing a solution, like automatically going into like problem solving or suggestions or recommendations.
Yes. Oh, I have a solution for that. Or I can fix that. And like, oh yeah, that happened to me one time, and this is what I did, unsolicited. Who are we making it about when we do that? Them or about ourselves? And that's not empathy. We're making it about ourselves. So remember, we are serving, we're getting curious when we're listening, and we're developing our empathy muscles to build relationships, which will build better teams. Thank you so much, everyone. I'm going to hand you over to Marc Francis.